right, this week we're going to make this short. We can't do these gigantic film and video reports. We have to be somewhat frugal.
Really?
I think we have a very limited topic to talk about this week. We're going to be talking about the television career of Mr. Hugh M. Hefner.
You consider him one of the classiest guys in publishing and television.
Well, listen,
hosting.
I love that original show, Playboy's Penthouse, which later became Playboy After Dark. But a little backstory, I think, on Mr. Hugh Hefner.
All right.
Who I think turns 107 years old this week. God bless him and his wife of 18 years old, Crystal. Yeah. But, Hugh Hefner started Playboy magazine. At the time, there was Esquire magazine.
Okay.
If you wanted to see drawings of pretty women. And there were the pinup magazines. They had names like Peekaboo and Giggles and Chuckles and that sort of thing.
Photos.
The cheesecake magazines. And Betty Page, of course, was in a bunch of them, along with maybe the famous strippers like Lily St. Cyr. And so anyway, Hugh Hefner has this great idea that he's going to have photos of naked women, well, let's just say topless for the most part, with the Playboy philosophy and the lifestyle articles wrapped around the photos of the naked women. You could get away with saying, hey, this is all part of a sexual revolution, which hadn't happened yet. Basically, you're young and single, and you shouldn't be sexually repressed. You should be free to explore and not be, ashamed of it.
Now, did this philosophy do you think that was a major inspiration in the Albert Broccoli Bond films?
Well, certainly the Bond short stories, the Ian Fleming stories, were published in Playboy.
Okay, I didn't
before
know
the movies came along. Right.
That answers a lot of questions.
Hugh Hefner found a kindred soul in Ian Fleming.
Now, also, he goes from print media now to the television media.
To the television world. Now,
Which you consider one of the greatest shows ever.
I love this show. First, it was called 1959, or 58 maybe it started, Playboy's Penthouse.
Okay.
Now, the idea, the Playboy headquarters were located in Chicago.
Yeah.
And the idea for the show was that this was a typical night in Hugh Hefner's penthouse atop the offices of the Playboy building, and every celebrity in the world would show up for this hour-long show. There would be, like we just were watching one just a moment ago, it's Sammy Davis Jr., Jerry Lewis, Anthony Newley, Nat King Cole,
in one program.
Lenny Bruce, one after another. Louis Nye, there'd be TV star, Don Adams was on. I mean, anybody you could think of, and big names, like prestigious people. It wasn't a sleazy show. I mean, like Ella Fitzgerald comes on and sings. Everybody was on.
Bill Cosby used to do a
Bill
stand-up.
Cosby was on multiple times. And as the show progressed, now it was Playboy's Penthouse, then it was sort of canceled. It was a syndicated show. It wasn't a network show. It was farmed out. I think in New York City it was on Channel 9 here, WORTV.
Then 9 picked it up in the 90s. They were showing.
They started rerunning it.
Yeah.
And then as the 60s wore on, he brought it back, this time as Playboy After Dark.
Yeah.
Now we're in the late 60s, so he still has the same kind of guests. It's still Don Adams. It's still Sammy Davis Jr., but now he's got rock bands playing.
And everyone's wearing beads.
Everyone's wearing, except for Hef. Hef is always in his customary tux.
Tuxedo. And then he's always acting as, you caught me.
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, the show would always open with, you'd get the Playboy theme, which is a jazz piece. I forget who wrote the piece. It's probably like Oscar Peterson or something like that. But it's, because Hef is really into jazz. There's the Playboy Jazz Festival that happens every year. And, it'd be a shot of Hef in his Jaguar going down, some major highway in Chicago on his way. And then the camera, and by the way, the whole thing is shot on a set. It's not literally in the penthouse. It's shot on a set. And it would be Hef in a tuxedo. He would turn around and go, oh, I didn't see you come in.
I have a feeling...
I'm so glad you're here.
I have a feeling the direction on the set was don't look in the camera, just pretend it's not here and have a conversation.
There's a lot of people in the background, various playmates who are all dressed to the nines. I mean, if you're thinking that this show is a bunch of girls running around topless, you're way off base. It's people in evening wear.
Yeah.
We
saw Lenny Bruce opening a bottle of champagne.
And he's sitting around talking with Nat King Cole about their albums. And so there's all these phony conversations going on in the background, this sort of, pretend party. And he would have the guests in. And really what it was a variety show and a talk show. He's like Carson. He's interviewing these various people. Hef is kind of a blank page. He doesn't have much personality.
No personality
So everybody
whatsoever.
comes off looking fantastic. Everybody's very charismatic compared to Hugh Hefner. Barbie Benton, God bless her, she could cut a rug like nobody's business. This girl in her little miniskirt, looking fantastic, dancing, just a cherubic face, and Hef is dancing with her. Hef cannot dance.
He tries to move.
Right.
He moves a
Hef
little.
is someone who has no soul whatsoever. Well, that show eventually gets canceled. What happens? Playboy is going to relocate to Southern California. Barbie Benton chooses the Playboy Mansion that we all know today because she was, everybody thought they were going to get married. They didn't get married. They eventually broke up because Hef was unfaithful.
but also at the same time, Hugh hosts Saturday Night Live, which I think is one of the worst ones from the 70s, next to when Louise Lasser hosted.
That was a weird time because at that time, Hefner was trying to position himself as a pioneer in women's rights. I don't know if you remember that. In the late 60s, Hef was very adamant about the fact that the sexual freedoms that women enjoyed or were very irresponsible about, depending on how you look at it, from the 1960s into the 70s, that Hef was somehow a part of this. He really tried to push that. Gloria Steinem and her like were saying, no way. You are talking out of your So, he was going for that, and SNL was kind of a hipster show, so it would make sense that Hef would be on there and trying to be hip. 1979 rolls around. We are talking about Hefner on television, Playboy on television. Of course, there's the Playboy Channel.
Yes.
Which I don't know what they show on that. I've never seen the Playboy
they have
Channel.
like weather. They have like
They have talk
naked.
shows
They have
on
naked
there.
women that are doing the weather.
Yeah, they have weird talk show, like call-in shows and
But
stuff.
79 is a
Can
wonderful.
I talk to Cindy?
But
She's
79
on
is-
page 38.
79 is a wonderful TV event.
Well, it's Playboy's. It's the New Year's Eve pajama party, isn't it?
I
Or
believe
just
so.
Something like that. It was a big television special.
It's the roller derby and pajama
Right.
party.
He combined it all. Now, this is where, Hef starts to lose me around this time because I like the idea of Hugh Hefner in the 50s, into the 60s, into the very early 70s. After that, when Hef starts walking around permanently in the pajamas, and the magazine just gets weirder and it loses its focus. Before, the magazine was, pushing this sophisticated ideal of what, men should all aspire to be, Sean Connery and You Only Live Twice or something.
Yeah.
And then in the 70s, it's like, hey, let your freak flag fly. And I can't get into that. And the magazine sort of nosedives for me. But so that special's great.
And walking around the stage is Waylon Flowers and Madam.
Waylon Flowers and Matt. Look, it's almost
great.
like
And of course, James Caan is on the special.
well, they're all on the special, and the village people sing a song, and Hef is surrounded by his bevy of beauties, and he's bopping his head, and they're smiling, and village people are singing, "Are you ready for the 80s?" That's their song. Are you ready for the 80s? And I think we know now that none of them were ready for the 80s. The 80s came, and that was the end of roller boogie and disco pajama parties. That was kind of the end of it. In the 2000s, all of a sudden, Hef comes back to television
By E.
on the E network, cable network, with a show called The Girls Next Door, because at the time, Hef is living in the mansion, as he has been for past 45 years, with 3 girlfriends, in quotes. I say
The whole thing is
girlfriends.
but following a reality show, it's completely scripted.
Oh, it's completely phony. And I did, yes, I confess, I did see some of the episodes of The Girls Next Door on E. It was on regular television. There was nothing salacious going on.
They were all annoying.
In fact, what I took away from this was that Hefner's so-called girlfriends seemed to have very little interaction with Hef himself.
He's always sleeping.
He always just seemed to be napping. The girls, there was the one that was trying to marry him. She wanted to. I forget what happened to her, but
She went away.
she was the main girlfriend, I suppose. And the other 2 girls, one was kind of ditzy, but she was nice, and the other one was crude. And then that was Kendra, and then she got her own series.
There was an episode they all went to Rome and like poor he was all like bundled up and they're like carrying him to the airplane. It's
Well,
like,
and they would go out to dinner. This is the weird, but they would go out to dinner on that show to swanky restaurants, but Hef would bring his own food. Hef always had he would bring it in like a plastic baggie, and he had to have his meat, sliced for him and diced in little tiny portions. He liked the same thing every night. And then when you read about, it's like Hef's best friend in the world is Ray Anthony. Now, Ray Anthony was, a popular band leader in the early 1950s.
Wow.
And so Ray Anthony is on the show a lot. Now, that's weird because we haven't seen Ray Anthony since 1954. He's on the show. And what a day in the life at the Playboy Mansion, according to this program, well, Hef is napping, obviously. And the girls go about their business. They go shopping, I guess, on his credit card account.
They're always shopping
buying
for
things.
Lingerie. You could tell they're pretty much safe because it's not going to be like a Benny Hill thing. He's not chasing them. Nothing's happening.
Nothing's happening. These girls could, and I later found out that one of them was married. Like she really wasn't living in the mansion. There was like some other. It was totally.
It was staged more than the Kardashians.
Right, and they talk about some of their activities, and they're like, it's movie night. And that's where we go up to Hef's bedroom, and he has the widescreen TV, and there's like a group of 20 of us, and we watch Loretta Young movies.
Yeah, they're watching old movies.
Like, what
and they're not interested. They're all texting.
Of course they're not. They're all texting. They're falling asleep. And eventually, what happened was those girls left, or I don't know if Hef, quote unquote, broke up with those girls, or it was a case of E saying, maybe we need some new girls to spice this thing up.
He got married or something.
So as we look back on the TV career of Hugh M. Hefner.
All I can say is watching clips of Playboy After Dark, it seems as if Hugh would rather be alone in his library reading a book.
He probably would. But, obviously he had a peak that he hit with Playboy's Penthouse and Playboy After Dark because, as we said, it was a talk show and everybody in show business was on that show. Everybody short of the Queen of England was on that show. These other shows all seem like a step down from that. And I think that is symbolic of what's happened to the magazine itself.
Yeah,
it used to be this, the sophisticated Playboy philosophy. We're going to have an interview with Henry Kissinger. And now it's like, Khloe Kardashian is going to be given a full page layout or an interview. And it's that level of pop culture celebrity. So that's really it, folks. We talked for quite a long time about...
You said this was going to be short.
I know, I did, but I lied. Who knew there was such rich material to
This
cover?
was the centerfold edition of the film.
This was. If you listen back to this, at the midway mark, there's a staple. All right, that's it for the Film and Video Report.